Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to The Bottom Shelf.
Hello, movie lovers and movie haters. Welcome to The Bottom Shelf, the podcast where every movie has a place.
Even when we don't want to be.
Yes, that's true. The Bottom Shelf is part of the Geek Devotions podcast network. Geek Devotions is the ministry from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved.
Wow. Great job there, Branson. It sounds like you've been practicing, my guy.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. As you just heard, I am Branson. And joining me on this base floating high above the planet geekery is the one, the only, Mr. John Harju. Was it Harju? Mr. Harju. Mr. John Harju. I'm Branson Boykin.
What's up, cheese bags? I'm your DM for tonight. I'm your movie guide for today.
Wrong show, John. And with us also is Dallas.
Hey, glad to be here. It's going to be a groovy time here as we talk about MacGyver 2.
No. Guyver 2, not MacGyver.
Mick Jagger? Well, wait a minute. Stop the show. I didn't sign up to do a Mick Jagger impersonation. I can't even do a Mick... How is this? I'm Mick Jagger.
This has gone off the rails. Can someone call my agent? I'm a stunt double. I don't get paid enough for being Branson. Actually, I should get paid more for being
For
Branson.
reals, this is ridiculous. I say we quit. The guys can handle this on their own.
But won't this set the production of the podcast back a bit? Yo.
Maybe, but who cares? It's not like anyone's going to remember the plot of the original version of this.
Can't believe that, though, that no one would notice that the entire crew was different. Come on, guys, let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's go. By the way, Josiah, that Mick Jagger impression of yours was sounding a little bit strange.
Yeah. I think I'm going to stick with what I'm good at. I'm known for my poo, after all.
Prepare yourself to discover a world of terrible movies. High above the planet Geekery, a group of intrepid explorers hover over the dangerous planet in their fabulous super-orbital spacecraft. Their mission? To conduct a complete analysis of movies known throughout the universe as terrible. So grab your space popcorn, grab your freeze-dried ice cream, and join us for today's mission of discovery and wonder. Are these movies better than the galaxy thinks? Or do they really belong on the bottom shelf?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Bottom Shelf, the podcast where we watch terrible movies so you don't have to. Brought to you by Geek Devotions, a podcast network of devoted geeks devoted to letting you know that you are loved. That's right. If you press pause right now and don't listen to anything else, know this. You are loved. You are cared for. Your creator has a plan and a purpose for your life. I am joined here today by two wonderful gentlemen who are experts at distracting me when I have this one job that I'm supposed to do. Joining me here today, you know what? And I'm going to go in order of level of distractedness. We're going to start with the one, the only, the man, the myth, legend, the DM extraordinaire, John Harju.
All of that was a lie. And stupid Glicks forced me to come back and play my own role.
You're under contract, man. Sorry.
I am under contract. I need to get in with the Screen Actors Guild. SAG would have never stood for this. Can I strike? They're supposed to be on strike right now.
But then you get replaced by AI. Yeah.
I hated that movie.
All right. And also joining us here today is the captain of the Geek Devotions Network, our good buddy, Dallas Mora.
Hello. I am glad to be back here. Yeah, I didn't know I'd been replaced. I just thought the extras took over. It was kind of like that scene from Spaceballs for me.
These are our stunt doubles. Thank you, by the way, to whoever is being our stunt doubles for stepping in and helping us have a little fun with the show. Our deepest and sincere thanks to you.
You're our heroes.
Some might even say dark heroes.
Da, da, da.
And with that awesome segue, what do we have in store for today?
Well, Branson, since you were so excited last week about the Guyver, and it was your favorite movie ever, you won't believe what I found in the dumpster, Branson. I dug deep for this, and I pulled out, like it was the $3 Walmart bin, The Guyver 2, the sequel. And so we're going to be going through that together. Let me grab the box here and let's hear The Guyver 2. Produced by the same man who brought you the aquatic graphics of The Cave, Lady in the Water, and the Aquaman TV show, Steve Wang. Starring the voice of your childhood, David Hayter, and the woman who's been on in every daytime TV show you've never seen, Kathy Christopherson.
There was an Aquaman TV show?
Yeah.
I missed this.
Let that fact sink in that you missed it. So anyways, back of the box, in the spectacular sci-fi sequel to The Guyver, is drawn to an archaeological dig in Utah backcountry, where he discovers an alien ship filled with weapons capable of global destruction. With the fate of all mankind in his hands, he makes a final stand against the forces of evil.
And that summary was a better movie than the first Guyver. I like it.
Well, let's find out where this stands.
Branson's going to be salty for like the rest of life.
I'm not going to be salty. I prefer paprika. Thank you very much.
Oh, I thought he was going to sing Bible stories or something.
Wrong, salty.
That was a deep cut, sir. Yes. You get the applause for this episode.
I've never even seen that show.
Oh no, it's not a show. It's on cassette tapes.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
I've seen screen grabs and it looked like something from SNL. So
I used to have the Bible, like the salty study Bible with the little devotions in it.
There was a study Bible.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That was my Bible as a kid.
Okay, after the last episode and in this conversation, I'm starting to realize something.
Yes, sir.
Where you lack, Dallas, when it comes to sharing my childhood, Branson makes up.
Oh, interesting. Our powers combined, we
I'm
are
telling you.
John R.U.'s trauma.
I mean,
all righty.
Just
twist,
need it,
John. We're
just
not
need
real
to get an
people.
abusive pastor in here, and then we'll be all set. We'll have the trifecta.
Oh gosh.
Working through that trauma. Branson, what's happening right now?
We're gonna go to the community communications on this movie before we take the dark part of Dark Hero a little too seriously. All right, we've got some community communications. Let's see here. I liked the original. Well, kick a guy while he's down. Clearly, I am in the minority when it comes to my opinion of the first Guyver movie. So I might have to repent later. I don't know. Do they have confessions for bottom shelf ratings? Can I go speak with a priest and like be absolved?
You can go
of my
talk to
rating
Kevin.
sins? Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I've rated a movie in the dumpster fire when I shouldn't have.
Oh Lord.
You sound like Glomgold again, bro.
I know. It happens every time. I can't help it.
Oh man.
All right. Edgy Ranger.
I think it's Rangers. I was supposed to be an S on there.
Oh, Edgy Rangers. Well, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
2 words. Elbow blades.
They are quite magnificent.
Yeah. Doesn't have Mark Hamill.
Or anybody else from the original movie.
That's true.
Nobody
It's like
is
a completely
present.
different movie.
They're like, nope, not here.
Now, I wonder, is that because the casting people decided, nope, we're starting all the way over, getting completely new people? Or is that because no one from the original would agree to come back?
This is the point. If this was in a Facebook chat, I would throw up that girl saying, why not both?
That's
Fair point.
That's fair.
Fair point. Not as good as the first. Man, I just missed it on this. I didn't
okay,
think
Branson.
my opinion would be that controversial, but
You got a
like,
hot take, bro. That's okay. I've got plenty of them. Trust me. I like
everybody
bro.
disagrees with me.
I liked Battlefield Earth.
Fair point. Fair point. Overhead press rewarded.
This is the same guy that said the shoulders weren't good in the first movie.
Uh-huh.
So now,
Oh, gotcha.
Solid Snake takes on evil corporate archaeologists.
That's a deep cut, but I appreciate the fact that they knew that David Hayter is the voice of Solid Snake from the Metal Gear Solid series.
he did so much.
Oh,
Like-
he's like one of the most famous voice actors out there.
I went through his biography. I like he was Captain America.
Mhm.
He was in Mobile Suit Gundam.
Mhm.
He's done all kinds of stuff over the years.
Wow. All right. And last, we have Guyver, but more martial arts focused than one-hit kills.
That's fair. That's fair. Because in the anime and the comic, legitimately, he's like, dead.
With these references, I'm looking forward to this movie. I've
All right. Well, you got any trivia for us?
A little bit more than the last movie, but not by much. So many times David Hayter has been asked at several conventions if there was ever if a third film was ever planned. He and Steve Wang have stated that the rights are in limbo, but they would never rule out making a reboot of the series, which I think would be merited for I think we have the technology now to make it better.
Yeah.
I'm like, gentlemen, we have the technology.
I think even with the traditional tokusatsu,
You stepped on my gag, Dallas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You killed it. It was a puppy. It was just being born, and you're just like, what?
Wow. We are leaning heavy into the dark aspect of this show today.
Dallas is
Wow.
writing down recording times. Got to cut that joke out.
No, I'm just getting rid of a scammer right now.
Oh. After the first film was criticized for being overly goofy and comical, the filmmakers decided to add more elements of action and horror, hence turning the sequel into an R rating.
Well, somebody agrees with me.
Although the previous film received that PG-13 rating, this film did receive a rated R. Notable as many film series have transitioned away from the R rating, but very few have ever transitioned to an R rating. Telltale Games. Are you guys familiar with that company?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have both their Batman games.
Sweet. Then you'll appreciate this, Dallas. Telltale Games was considering earlier on looking to buy the Guyver franchise to be turned into one of their episodic games.
That would have been pretty cool, actually, if they had done that.
Nice.
All right, with those interesting factoids and Branson's hopes destroyed with our community conversations, what are our expectations going into this? Branson, you dumpster fired the last Guyver movie. Clearly, you don't care for this one. Also, it's the sequel. Those are worse.
So once again, cards on the table. This is my guilty pleasure. This is one that I added to the list. As I mentioned in the last show, my first exposure to the Guyver franchise was this movie. It came on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I thought it was just a cool, darker-looking Power Rangers. So going into it, as far as expectations go, I'm going to try very hard not to let myself be duped by rose-colored glasses, because it has been a long time since I've seen this movie. I remember thinking it was cool enough that, like, me and my sister would play it as kids. Like, I would pretend to be the Guyver, and I'd have the elbow blades and
Right.
all that stuff. I actually thought the whole concept of humans turning into monsters was a really neat idea. So with a lot of the stories I'd make up as a kid, it usually had humans that turned into creatures of some sort, whether they be dinosaurs or something like that.
I'm beginning to understand Gospel by Gaslight so much more now.
Is the Guyver going to make an appearance?
No.
That's trademarked material, bro.
But so I don't want to say I'm expecting good things, because nostalgia can sometimes fill in gaps and make things look better than they are. I will say I'm expecting to be more entertained than I was with the first one. And I'll leave it at that.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm going to jump in. I own this movie also because I'm a completionist, like Branson. I vaguely remember enjoying it, but also going, why does this look cheap? Like, there were scenes in it that I was just like, this looks like it was made for TV. Looking at what the directors have done, which is a lot of television type of stuff, and realizing that these are the same guys that did the Aquaman TV show, I'm like, okay, I see why it looks like that. Probably the budget also, because again, the first movie didn't do too well. And so I'm not really sure how this happened. I wish I could find some information on how this movie happened. But I'm willing to get into it. I like this style of storytelling. I think it's fun. I like martial arts. I like monsters. So let's have fun with it. John?
After the first movie, I was mildly looking forward to this movie until I did my research and saw that nobody comes back. And the last movie we did that was a movie that doesn't exist anymore.
I don't even remember what you're talking about, so it really is gone.
To peel away our mythos, I'm referring to Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever I see a franchise where none of the actors come back, I get a little bit weary about it. So at this juncture, now that I know that, I'm a little bit skeptical.
That's fair.
A lot of bit skeptical.
Yeah.
Well,
but I'm going to try to go in blank.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to enter into the movie theater to watch this. Real quick, if you're listening to this right now and you're watching this on the YouTube side, leave a comment and let us know your expectations for the film and how you think we're going to rate it. So let's jump into it.
Dear listeners, this is your opportunity to escape. Our crew has just entered into the media projection chamber. What horrors and madness that they consume are unknown. Their mental state upon their return is unknown. You have been warned.
John,
Sir? John, you introduced a hummer to the
on
signal.
my shoulder. John.
Sorry, I was dreaming about large women. It's a reference to Princess Bride. Don't take it the wrong way.
I know where you're going with
I was going to say, John, just go back to sleep. We don't want to know. Just go back to sleep.
Oh my gosh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just came out of the viewing chamber. And we have watched Guyver. I noticed it's Guyver, not the Guyver. Dark Hero.
How much do you want to bet that it's because the American audience kept calling it MacGyver?
Probably.
I can see that.
So let's jump into our spoil-free thoughts. Anybody want to just jump on? I got a couple things, but I started us off last time.
This movie is overlong and takes too long to get to where it's trying to get to. I mean, that's as spoiler-free as I can get with my thoughts on this movie. We went from a movie that doesn't even touch an hour and a half to a movie that's over 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That would have probably done better at an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's fair. Apparently, just so you know, in the UK version, there's 27 minutes that were cut for the UK DVD, which includes moments of violence, a nightmare sequence, a spoiled item that's in there. And he goes, however, the 15 seconds cut made to the earlier video release was a bloody shooting scene and a throat stabbing. Those were restored for some reason in the UK. But yeah, 27 minutes.
I can agree with John. I think there were places where it seemed like it just kind of drug where it could have sped up. We spent a little bit too much time on certain things that we could have just sped through. I did like this better than the first one, primarily because it kept that serious tone throughout. There wasn't the constant flip-flop between, serious dark tone and then goofy villain, and then serious dark tone and then goofy villain. So in that regard, I liked it.
I liked the levity, dude.
I understand, but like I said in the last episode, it's a pet peeve of mine to take something that's supposed to be serious and make it funny.
At the same time, you had that weird, like for Branson, when you came into it, it was a serious R-rated film. John and I came in, and it was a pseudo comedy dark film. It was a dark comedy.
That's true. Now, if I had seen Guyver 1 before Guyver 2, I probably would have seen this entire franchise differently. That's a valid point. Because my first exposure was the darker film.
Yeah.
I've got to get into spoilers to say what else I want to say about it. So I'll just wrap it up with, I did like this one better, but there were some pacing issues that could have been addressed.
Can I also say the light? There was too much light in this movie. Too many scenes that happened during the daytime.
For it to be called Dark Hero. Yeah, you're right.
No, not even
just
that.
Period.
Just period. Like the reasons why the rubber suits worked so well in the first one, and I think we talked about this in previous episodes, that sometimes you show too much. And I think this movie showed too much. Like where the last movie, I liked the suits and they looked fairly realistic, and I enjoyed that aspect until they talked and the mouths didn't move. They had the reverse problem in this one, where the mouths moved great when they would talk in this movie, but the problem is that I saw too much of the suit and it looked real rubbery to me.
There was a loss of, to Branson's credit, it's like the Dark Hero in the sunlight, and so
in sunny Utah.
It's like that did throw that off. But John, you hit a great point. Like, there is a reason why certain movies, like Nightmare Before Christmas, why in so many Tim Burton movies they're dark, because you can hide certain things in the shadows, and it builds the texture. All that light made the suits feel flat instead of textured, and feel like there was something really, really there that was creepy. Like, it felt more like the Saturday. Ironically, the levity was gone, but it felt like more like a Saturday morning show. At the same time, with the way they did the lighting. Now, the opening fight scene between Guyver and some thugs, and the couple other scenes where they were in like a darker areas, those were kind of cool. Like, overall, I think that the fight scenes were better in this one. The martial arts were better in this one. I was more entertained with the fighting in this one. I feel like the previous movie had more compressed into time frame, more dialogue, more conversation about the world, more conversation about what was taking place. Whereas this one was less conversation, though they had some, because they had to go into the whole thing about the Zonoids, but there was a lot of fighting that took place in this one.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to when I first saw the advertisement that made me interested in the movie in the first place. Most of the scenes in that advertisement were from the street fight at the very beginning, where he's in that shadowy area and there's steam everywhere and he's got steam coming out of his vents. Most of it was from that. Very little of the ad was from when he's actually fighting the monsters.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see that. And actually that, looking back on it, that was some of my favorite parts of the movie was when he's fighting those gangsters. It had a very Batman vibe to it, you know.
And that just brings me to my main issue with the light. It's just like Batman doesn't make sense in the daytime.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Another issue I ran into was there were several technical issues that I ran into with the camera work. There were so many scenes that things were blurry, and it not like intentional. Like it was like somebody forgot to set the focus ring on it, and it was like at one point Celeste and I were watching it, and Celeste goes, "Why is it focused on the tree branch behind him?" Because it wasn't focused on the actors. A lot of the close-ups, it felt like they filmed. They didn't zoom in, and so it felt like in the editing floor, they're like, this would look a lot better if we cut in, and so they just forced the image to get bigger, which brought in a lot of noise into the background or into the grain of things, and it was just awkward. And then there were even some like awkward camera angles. There was a scene where, in one point, where they're walking into the where they're in the cavern.
Spoilers.
Well, it's just there was a couple scenes where the camera just tilts, like the camera operator is like, "Oh, he's moving," and it's like he went, "Oh, I dropped my camera for a second," and kept going. And so, from a technical side of things, like I kind of struggled with some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, should we go ahead and jump into spoilers so we can really dissect this film?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the spoiler section.
So, question.
Answer.
Did the student archaeologists die?
I think like two of them did. Two of them
because they had them rounded up.
Right.
They were pulling the guns on them,
but then
they cut away to a different scene altogether.
Well, if you remember, right before it cuts away, you saw one of the bad guys get hit, and then the other bad guy who was on the floor turn around, going, "Who are you?" And it moved on from there. So the suggestion is they made it out alive.
Yeah, they all got in the cars and drove away because the FBI, the CIA agents showed up and
was leading them out.
I don't understand
that
how
was so smash edited. I had a hard time following.
Yeah, no, that was confusing for me too. Because they kept flipping. They were trying to show that the CIA agents were like everywhere at once. They were just there and boom, but they kept jumping back and forth. You never really knew what scene you were in because sometimes they were in the office, sometimes they were in the ship. But the idea is that the CIA showed up and took over, which these are supposed to be monsters that are so tough that it requires alien technology to beat them. And CIA agents are able to overpower them and take over them until they decide they can't anymore. And then I don't know that there comes a certain point in the movie where it's like
the logic breaks down.
Yes.
I tried to logic that with you, Branson. And at first I was like, well, maybe it's we don't want to go full Zonoid because we don't want the world to know everything. And to a degree, I was cool with that until the other Zonoid showed up and was like, escorting the CIA agent around. I'm like, okay, like pick a method somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, or like when the CIA agent is being chased by the female Zoanoid and he ends up winning the fight against her. Like, I guess maybe you could argue that she was just messing around too much and then got
he electrocuted her.
Yeah, but she should have been able to take care of him before that. Like, he should not have been able to live long enough to be able to pull that off.
I'll give you that.
I mean, if the Guyver is the only thing that can fight these Zoanoids, why was he able to live long enough to push her into an electrical box?
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't. There seems like there was, once they found the ship and they knew the ship was there. From that moment forward, the movie seemed to kind of fall apart for me. Like,
it was at that point that the movie fell apart
for me. Not leading up to it, there were flaws. There admittedly were flaws, but the point where I was just like the point where the nostalgia glasses finally came off, and I was like, okay, seeing this as an adult is very different than seeing this as a.
It's like I said in the last episode, man. It's like watching the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah, there just came a point where I was like, this is not as good as I remembered. Like I said, overall, I liked it better than the first one. I really liked the exploration they did of Sean about, I've got this thing that I don't want, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get rid of it. And that's why he's at Utah trying to dig the thing up, because he's trying to find a way to get rid of the Guyver. I thought that was a neat plot point. I did not like the romance between him and the lady archaeologist. That felt very, very ham-fisted.
Yeah.
But it did explain why. I guess it's almost like they did that to explain why he had unfettered access to everything he needed. It's because he was dating the boss's daughter.
Right.
So
her name was Carol McGuffin.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, even with her, they played her up as this really smart, intelligent scientist person at first. And then at some point, she just kind of became the chick of the movie.
She went from,
I felt like that was a downgrade.
Yeah, she went from smart, strong lead female actress to helpless damsel in distress.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, very quickly too. It was kind of jarring. Like, I was kind of rocking with her, and I was like, okay, she can, she's gonna hold her own, especially when we got to that fight scene at the end. And I'll say this: I was thankful that she took the sledgehammer and took it to that dude's head.
Yes.
And that she didn't just back away like, oh no. Like, I was like, yes. Rawr. But
that just gave me flashbacks to The Shining.
But
have you seen The Shining?
I have.
That scene where Jack Nicholson and his wife are on that stairwell and she's holding that bat choked way up high on the bat. She's, she's backing up.
Right. So I appreciated that scene, but at the same time, like, there's some point I was like, you are such a hardcore, like, bad to the bone woman the entire time through this movie. Like, you're calling shots, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, Sean.
Yeah. She leaned into the damsel aspect really heavy. And I don't necessarily dislike the damsel in distress trope. I'm all about chivalry and all that, but that wasn't the character they had created at the beginning. Like, she wasn't even going to let Sean onto the site, and what made her decide to let him was, I'm a scientist. I understand what it means to just have to know something. So she started out as being a very powerful, intelligent woman, and then she became just the love interest of the hero, and that was her role, and it was a letdown.
Branson, can I complete breaking this movie for you?
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to talk about the scene where Sean finally tells her everything that's going on for the first time.
Yeah.
Essentially, he is basically saying everything you and your father believe is true, and it's being exploited by this company that's running your camp. That's why he's stealing this item from you. and basically is laying it out for her. This is all stuff she already said that her and her father believed. And then she runs off and basically treats him like he's insane. Like, you're insane
I
for
wrote that
thinking
down.
that.
I actually wrote that down. I was like, you literally believe that aliens inhabited the earth.
I'm not saying aliens, but it's aliens.
Right. But she believes that. But then when Sean tells the story, his side of the story, she's like, that's ridiculous. Why would I believe that? It's like, lady, you just found an alien spaceship. What part of this is unreasonable?
And then what does she do? She goes and runs directly to the guy that Sean tells her, hey, this guy's in bed with the bad guys.
Right.
He's bad news.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, that's, I use this phrase so much on this show, but it's so true. That's just bad writing. It's just bad and lazy writing. You go by your rules only as they serve you, and when it's not convenient for you, then you change the rules just to push the plot along.
Right.
Right. And the thing is I'm comparing what we just saw with how I remember the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what I remember is so much better than what I saw.
Right.
Like the Guyver Zoanoid. I remember as a kid seeing that and thinking, oh my gosh, it's a Zoanoid with a Guyver unit. Uh-oh.
A broken Guyver unit.
But a Guyver unit nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched it this time, and this might play into what you were talking about earlier with the lighting, I saw it this time, and I remember it being darker. I remember it being a more shadowy thing. And now it's like he looks kind of the same. He just put a mask on.
I'm curious, guys. We're all watching this on modern
high
viewing
definition
abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If this was on a CRT TV, scan lines and all, not near as bright, do we think that would have fixed some of what we're seeing? I don't think it would help the flat out daytime shots.
I'm following your logic. Like, I was thinking the same thing when you started talking, but I will say probably not, and here's why. Because Branson and I both, peeling back the narrative a little bit here, Branson and I both watched this off of Amazon. I watched the HD file. It was the same cost as the SD file, so why not? And even still on HD, my picture was so grainy.
Yeah.
I made a comment to you guys when I was watching it. It looks like they digitized the VHS tape is what it looked like.
And that may have been what they did.
And so as for me, no, I don't think it would have, because I had the same amount of graininess and it just wasn't a great picture I was watching, even in HD. So I don't necessarily think that. I just think that we have seen what they tried to do done better so many more times since Branson has seen this.
Yeah.
That coming back to it is like, it's like, it's like trying to go back and watch He-Man and appreciate it in the same way you did when you were 6 years old.
Yes. I like the way you put that. That you're exactly right. Yeah.
You're not in the same. You're not in the same space. Like when I was in college, I took a communications course, interpersonal communications. It was a prerequisite for the program I was in, and one of the core fundamentals of communicating effectively is understanding that where a person is in their life at any given moment will affect how they receive information. So back in 1994, when this movie came out, this was what the special effects were at the time. We didn't know any better, and we were significantly younger, so we were more impressionable at the time,
right?
And prone to having a more active imagination to fill in the cracks, as it were.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas you watch it now, you come back to it, we've seen all these magnificent, like you pit this up against the MCU or even the DCEU, you know, and it just falls flat. We've just, it's like what my dad says about taco pizza. It just reminds me of two things I like better. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair.
I want to put this out real quick. I did some quick digging. Both DVD releases, the 2004 and 2016, use the same 480i scan on the DVDs.
Okay.
Which is probably the exact same thing that's probably on streaming
VHS.
services.
Yeah.
So in some streaming services, they'll artificially res things up. They'll basically put a filter on it to smooth things out. So it's probably the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that probably wouldn't have affected the lighting at all.
No. And so it's like it was a product of its time. I think this movie had an expiration date and we consumed it afterwards.
Yeah, that's a good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was a little bit crunchy.
Yeah. I almost wish that they would have made a movie about his time in the city, having nightmares about becoming the Guyver and killing thugs and gangs. Like, give me more of that story where he's hunted by the police.
A conflict of conscience.
Yeah, exactly. Like
make him an anti-hero.
You know who would have made a great TV show about this? Remember the FX channel?
Yeah.
I didn't have it.
Back in the 90s, they had some great television that was kind of in this flame. Now, I say great. It was 90s television story, but like Darkman had a TV show. Like this would, like what you're talking about, like going through that dark stuff and figuring it out, that would have made a great FX series back in the 90s.
It would have, yeah. Yeah.
Like the biggest problem I have with this movie is I could see so many ways how they could have done it better. And that frustrates me because I don't get paid to do this.
Right. It drives home the fact that a reboot needs to happen. Like everyone that said they would be up for a reboot. But I don't mean a reboot just of this movie. I mean of the entire franchise. I understand what and start from the beginning.
I understand what you're saying, but if they're going to do it, it needs a budget.
Yeah. In one of the Guyver groups, somebody had commented, because I posed the question in one of the Guyver Facebook groups that are out there, because there are multiple Facebook groups for people who are fans of the franchise. They said 1 and 2 movies are absolute trash. Please start over and make them legendary. There is a genuine cry from the community to restart the series from scratch.
I don't think that the first movie was trash. Like there's a part of me that obviously I found the movie to be silly, but I enjoyed it. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you need to appreciate it for the time period that it's in. As far as this movie, my biggest issue with it is it was just boring.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to add this.
I have never been so bored during a kung fu fight in a movie.
See, I thought this was the fights we're seeing. I want to add something positive. I appreciated that they did a good job of continuing some homage to the source material. In the comics and in the animes, there are multiple Guyver units. I think that was one of the downsides. The first movie, they made it sound like there was only one Guyver unit, period. There are multiple ones. And in fact, the second big baddie that Sho is the name of the character in Japanese, fights is a Zoonoid who has a damaged Guyver unit. And in the fight with that unit, with that particular monster, it glitches, and while the thing is legitimately melting, he opens the buster beams in his chest and he fries it. So that's like a legitimate, the way they played it out there was legitimately how it plays out in the source material. And so I appreciated that detail. I also appreciated kind of the lore it built on. It built on the whole world of like, the Zoonoids were actually the better warriors. The Guyver units, we were bad, because Guyver actually means out of control. And And so that was like, yeah, you guys are, because they can't control the humans once they have the Guyver unit on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated some of that world building that took place. I feel like if we had more world building and less awkwardness throughout the entirety of the film, I would have been a lot better.
His relationship with the lady archaeologist was too much of a point of the movie.
Yeah.
That romance did not have to happen for this movie to make sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of a flaw for 90s filmmaking in general. If there's a guy and a girl in the movie, they have to get together by the end. And I hate that. It's just
That's
like, why does a guy and a girl always have to get together? You know what I mean? Like, I knew Celeste before I ever met Dallas. She's still just a friend. That's just how life is.
And that's how she will remain to you.
Bro, don't make it weird, okay?
I know.
But no,
you're right.
You're absolutely right. There doesn't have to be a romance. They can just be
platonic.
Shoot, they could outright hate each other through most.
That would be even more interesting to me.
Yeah,
they can hate each other, but they have to work together.
Exactly, they have to work together because I mean, the long and the short of it is at the end of the movie, Sean destroys the one thing that she has spent her life looking for, regardless of whether it was a justifiable reason or not. She has spent most of her life looking for that evidence, and he told it to shoot off into space. And her response is, "Oh, I just love you so much."
Her response was, "Let me taste your tonsils."
There should be at least be a little bit of struggle there of, I am conflicted that this thing that I have desperately wanted my entire life is now being sent away. Even if it's for the good of mankind, that's my life's work. That's just shooting off planet. You know, and her dad dying. Like
she didn't even bat an eye.
Yeah. I appreciated that they had the scene where they buried him. Yay. But like, she was not heartbroken at all.
She was more just about running off with home dude.
Yeah. And it just, as John mentioned before, it was just lazy writing. It's like they got to the point where you're like, okay, we got to wrap this up. How can we tie this all up in a nice, neat little bow? Here we go. This is what we'll do.
For the listeners at home, Branson's sitting here cross-armed with his brows furrowed, looking like he's sucking on a lemon right now as he's talking about this.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, anything else spoil-free we want to add to this conversation? Or spoil-filled?
I was going to say, we've spoiled it pretty bad.
There was literally no reason why Jimmy Walker's character couldn't have come back for this.
I want that story. I wanted to know what he was doing.
Like literally at the end of the first movie, the one dude from the CIA and Jimmy Walker's character are talking, and he's like, "I've got another job for you." And I was waiting for Jimmy Walker to show up because he's still alive and he has a job he's working on, and nothing. Jimmy Walker. Yeah. And he would have been great. Like, have a, I get it. First movie too goofy, fine. You don't have to cut out all levity, though. Find balance.
Let him be the reason that the CIA even knows what Kronos is up to. Like, let him be some kind of informant or something.
I would be almost okay with them doing a third movie in this universe, but giving this the Highlander 2 treatment and just pretending like this didn't happen. Just to continuing a thought line that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give our rating now for this film. If you're new to the bottom shelf and you're like, The Guyver 2 is my favorite movie. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here is our rating system for you. We have the top shelf, which is I need to own this right now on DVD streaming. I need to have the poster tattooed to my left butt cheek. Middle shelf is maybe it's watch it for streaming. If it's on, maybe watch it, throw it on there. If you happen to have the DVD for some reason, throw it in there if you're doing some cleaning. And then bottom shelf, probably will never watch this ever again. And then we have the dumpster fire, where we actively try to keep people from watching this film. And to our knowledge, when you throw things in dumpster fire, they disappear, and we never know what happens to them. In fact, we don't know if any movies actually got in there. So that being said, let's jump into it. Mr. Haru, what is
dumpster fire? Yeah, I was like, I put myself into this review to try to keep it lively and, keep things jovial and comical, but ultimately I was bored for 2 hours. I didn't enjoy watching it. I don't ever want to watch this movie again. In fact, for people who have watched the first Guyver movie and enjoyed it, I would actively tell you, don't watch this movie, because anything that you found redeeming in the first movie is not in this movie. None of the original actors that should have been in this movie were in it for whatever reason. I could guess, but I won't. And the things that they had going for this movie, being the more advanced rubber suit work or the better actor in the lead role with David Hayter, was squandered either by poor writing or by just lighting everything up like a spotlight so you can see all the flaws on the suits. I think that the people who created this movie did so incompetently and squandered the assets that they have to highlight things about the story that didn't matter. And there was, again, a lot of montage scenes with them archaeologizing this site.
Yeah.
That could have been skipped over, that just felt like fluff in an already too long movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I could have put this on a bottom shelf if they would have edited themselves a little bit and brought it back down to an hour and a half, a runtime that makes more sense for a movie of this type. But as it stands for the movie that I just watched, dumpster fire. I never want to see this again, and I don't think anybody should pay the $4 I did to watch it.
I'm genuinely curious how you would have responded to the UK version, which was 27 minutes shorter.
Well, based off of what you said they cut out the wrong things. So I don't know that I would necessarily think any different, but that's just me guessing.
All right. Branson, how about you, bud?
I really expected to middle shelf this because, like I said, this is my guilty pleasure. I've never felt a great desire to go own it, but I thought, I hadn't seen it in a while. If it were on, I'd sit down and watch it. And then I did sit down and watch it. And it's, how people sarcastically say, well, check that off of life's to-do list. I feel like I've checked that off of life's to-do list. I'm struggling with where exactly I want to put it because I did like it better than the first movie.
Let me help you with this, Branson. Did you like this movie?
No, and that's disappointing.
Hang on. Do you ever want to watch it again? Could you let me rephrase that? Could you foresee yourself saying, "Hey, I want to watch this again after this experience that I've had with it"?
No.
Okay.
Because what I remember it being is not what it is.
Okay. Now
I want to go back.
Let me ask you the third question.
Okay.
If somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm interested in this Guyver series. Should I watch the second Guyver movie?" What would you tell them?
I would tell them, go ahead, just know what you're getting into.
Let me ask you this. If it was just on the TV and you just finished mowing, would you sit down and watch it?
Before I actually watched it, my thought would have been yes. Like I said, I would have expected to want to sit down and watch it again.
Wow.
But now that I've seen it again and I have what it actually is instead of what I remembered it to be, it's like the episode of Power Rangers where the pig was going to consume the world's food supply.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched that as a kid, that was a serious plot point. And the fact that the Power Rangers were able to figure out that spicy food was its weakness was them using their intelligence, and it was a cool thing.
Yes.
And then I saw it. I don't think I was even an adult yet. I think it was in like late high school. And I went back and watched it and thought, this is stupid. Like, why did I ever think this was cool?
Well, tell you,
That's how I feel about this now. I remember watching this as a kid and loving it. I remember getting excited that we were going to watch it again. And now I want to go back to the memories of what I had it being instead of what I watch. Like I want to go back to what was in my head.
I'll tell you what, Branson. Why don't you sit on it? And think about it for a little bit more.
Okay.
Let's switch over to Dallas. Dallas, where are you putting this movie?
So for me, it's not a good movie.
No.
And there are elements that I liked better. I thought the fight scenes were better. Thought some of the fights and the action scenes were better, just across the board. They really were. But I'm with you, John. Man, if they just shaved off some of it and made this a more succinct story, it would have been so much better. It would have, and if it had not been so stinking bright the entire time, killing the magic of what's happening with the suits. If it had the levity, I would be okay with how bright it was, but it just wasn't there. It's almost like the tones should have switched places for the movies. Again, I own it. I own the movie. I'm a completionist. I think it's kind of interesting. I like the world it builds. I might watch it if it's streaming, but I'm not like, I've watched the Guyver more times than Guyver 2. I purely bought this for the completionist of it. I have not watched this movie since I purchased this from Hastings.
Moment of silence for Hastings.
Oh. Amen. I have not watched this since I purchased it from Hastings back in 2008. So I'm going to put it on the bottom shelf.
All right.
I don't want to burn it out, for the world. It's interesting. Again, the action scenes were fun. And if you're just in a Guyver kick and you're like, I'm going to do this, I have it. Legitimately, like, out of this, I've been watching the anime and I was reading the manga before we started recording today.
I feel like these are stories that work better in cartoon and manga than it does in live action, though, too.
Totally.
So.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right.
Especially if you're gonna do it like this.
A different medium would probably help. Okay.
We gave you extra time.
Yeah. Okay. I am going to put it on the bottom shelf for the simple reason. John, everything you said about the movie, I agree with. The only reason I'm not dumpster firing it is because if someone else wanted to watch this movie, I would not try to dissuade them in the sense of saying, no, don't waste your time. I would tell them, know what you're getting into and know there are alternatives out there, but I wouldn't tell them, don't bother watching it. So for that reason alone, I'm going to bottom shelf it as opposed to dumpster fire it. But
I can respect
it.
that.
It is a low bottom shelf.
It's got some dust on it.
Shelf.
I can respect that.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, it may be so for people out there, we have a disputed bottom shelf, but I think we can all agree that this movie was pretty trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I just curious, Branson.
Yes.
Keeping in mind everything you said, is it still worse than the original Guyver?
Better was the proper. Because he said he liked this one.
Is it still better than the original Guyver? Because you dumpster fired the Guyver.
Oh.
See, here's the thing, though.
For those of you who are listening right now, there's a giant pinwheel floating over Branson's head.
Floating.
The hamster's
Floating.
twitching because it goes, I didn't expect to run this far. What's happening?
Buffering.
I
Bots
can't
downloading.
I can't get past the total shift of the first one of we're serious, now we're funny. We're serious, now we're funny.
Okay.
If I had to go back and reissue, I would have changed it to a bottom shelf rating. Because
for those of you out there, the look on Branson's face is like Dallas asked him, "Does this look infected to you?"
like this one. If I were to go back and change my rating, it would be bottom shelf, but it would still be a very low bottom shelf. As I said before, it is a pet peeve of mine to take something that is meant to be serious and make it comical. That is the only reason I would rate the first Guyver lower. As I said before, if the first Guyver had been my first exposure to the franchise, I might have liked it better. I was used to a more serious tone, and so it made the first Guyver seem comical. I saw these movies out of order, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
I went to the first Guyver expecting the second Guyver, and it did not deliver on that. But then again, I went to the second Guyver expecting the second Guyver, and it still didn't deliver.
That's the quote of the episode right there.
I don't even know what my ratings are anymore. My rating is Goldfish. That is my rating for both of these movies. It's
that
Goldfish.
might be the subtitle for this episode.
Branson is having an existential crisis over a piece of crap movie. That's basically what's happening here.
Get my stunt double to come back in here and be me. I'm done. Contract or no, I don't want to be on this episode anymore.
Branson's
get my
just
stunt double
what
in
is
here.
reality?
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have it. It is a disputed bottom shelf for us here at the bottom shelf. Want to hear from you. How do you rate this? Is it higher? Is it lower? Are you confused? Are you
Branson
able
is.
to help Branson with his mental state right now, because he might need it. So let us know. Reach out to us on our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. Look for The Bottom Shelf Podcast. If you're on YouTube, leave comments in the video below. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for...
This is a weak connection.
I feel like I should be wearing a robe and have a fan in my hand whenever Matt sings that.
Oh my gosh. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Week Connection. This is where we take the movies we watch, whether they are a bottom shelf or a dumpster fire, and we find some redeeming quality of it to encourage you, inspire you, let you know you're loved, you're cared for, there's a plan and purpose for life, and yet you should not give up. And so let's jump into it. Branson, you got a weak connection for this bottom shelf film that you're...
I actually do. Despite my confusion about the rating, I actually do have a weak connection for this. There's a scene at the end where Sean finally realizes exactly what the Guyver was supposed to be. And he realizes that I'm just a weapon. I have no destiny. I have no purpose. I'm just a weapon. I'm a mistake. And lady archaeology person whose character name I can't remember, which should tell you something about the value of her character in this movie, looks up at him and says, "You found your own destiny. You took something that was that happened to you and turned it into something good. And you have a purpose now." And that reminded me of Genesis chapter 50, verse verse 20. "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." This is Joseph speaking to his brothers who sold him into slavery in Egypt. His brothers intended him harm. Joseph found himself a slave, and then through God's providence, he worked his way up to being the ruler of all Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. And because of his position, he was able to provide for his family during a famine, a severe famine in the land. And it sets the stage for the tribes of Israel to grow and become the Israelite nation that Moses would lead out of Egypt and become the chosen people of God who would prophesy the Messiah. So there was something that was intended for evil, but God used it for good. And we see this in Guyver too. You have this guy who he has this weapon. He is designed to be a weapon for a very specific purpose, and a purpose that he did not want. In fact, through most of the movie, he's trying to get rid of the Guyver. That's why he's there in the first place. He doesn't want this anymore. But it was the powers of the Guyver that enabled him to be able to fight the Zoanoids and send the ship away so that other people couldn't get to those weapons, even though what he was designed to do was evil.
Mm.
He was still able to do good things with it. And I think that's something very important that we need to realize. We're going to have situations in our lives and circumstances and things that happen that are the result of either someone intending evil on us, or they're just bad circumstances. They're scars that we wear, whether physically or emotionally, bad things that happen. And God can redeem those things and use them for his good. If we've been through a traumatic experience, God can use that so that we can speak truth and life into other people who have been through similar experiences. If, how many times have we found ourselves in what seems like a really bad situation, and then we realize, oh, well, God was actually setting the stage for something else to happen later down the road, in reference of the fact that, we started recording this on September 11th. The people who were late to work on September 11th in New York City, 2001, they were running late to work that day, and then it ended up being a good thing. So whenever we have bad things happen to us, that doesn't mean that has to be where the story ends. God can use the negative things in our life to redeem them and turn them into something that he can use as a tool to do good. Mm-hmm. So when we look at the scars we carry, it's real easy for us to wish that those scars weren't there. But I think the thing that we need to do as followers of Christ is to recognize those scars are tools that God can use to speak life into someone else. That these are things that God can use and redeem to achieve his ends and his purposes. And that's kind of what I got out of that scene in the movie.
I like it, man. I like it. John, did you have anything?
Again, no, because I got caught up in Gundam Watch rules instead of our own rules. Because what show am I on?
It's cool. It's cool. Well, actually, I have one, and it's actually based on the same scene that Branson just talked about, and I'm not sure if the fact that that's where Branson and I found the only redemptive quality says anything about the movie or not, but.
There's nothing redemptive about this movie.
We just had one, and this is where I'm going to go with it, because like Branson said, he's going through this stuff and he's struggling, and he's looking for purpose, and he realized that they're supposed to be used for evil, but at the same time, I'm going more towards the fact that he's been on this journey the entire time trying to find purpose. He's genuinely just what's the point? At one point he's yelling at the machine going, what do you want? What do you want from me? And he's just been making it up as he goes. And that happens sometimes in life. But we have to. So how do we do it? What do we do when we're just trying to figure stuff out? Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean into your own understanding. He was just naturally just trying to figure things out. And in that world, in that gap that it was taking place, he was confused. He was lost. Well, verse 6, in all your ways, acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. What it's trying to say here is if we trust in God, if we put our focus in him, he's going to guide us. He's going to direct us. Now, how does he do that? Is there going to be an audible voice from heaven going, you need to go this way? Maybe that might happen. God speaks today still. But most of the time, it's through as we lean into the spiritual disciplines of being in the Word, being in prayer, and this is key, being in biblical community where we allow people to speak into our lives and we allow people to help us, and assuming that these are people who are, again, living biblically and they're not being jerks, being controlling crackheads, but genuinely love and care about you and want you to succeed, you will find the direction you need as you walk out the spiritual practices that are before us. And so that's my encouragement for you guys is, yes, God's going to redeem the terrible crap in your life in some fashion. It may not be the way you wanted to, but he will. But also just trust him to lead you.
Amen.
Cool. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was our week connection. That was our episode on The Guyver 2. Did not expect it to go this direction today. So
I want to hear from you guys. Branson to have a existential crisis about this movie.
I would be less conflicted about it if it wasn't something that I had nostalgia connected to. Like if this was just some random, like seriously, if this was some random movie that I just stumbled upon, I would be more decisive. But I have vivid memories that I now know are not true about this movie, and it bothers me.
Bro, I have memories about the first one where he's getting into some kind of bionic car. So I just, yeah.
I'm interested in this version of this movie.
I am too. I am still looking for it.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's no car here, but this show is running out of steam. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you are interested in checking us out, I'll encourage you guys, check out the link tree for John's everything he does. Check out Gospel by Gaslight. There's some stuff coming down the pipeline for that Branson's working on, and Solid House Podcast. And then check out geekdevotions.com for all this stuff and more. Anything else you guys want to add to the table?
I think you're a very handsome man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay devoted. Peace and love.